Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third edition of the Chi-Town Sports Podcast featuring Ben Newinner. I'm your host, Brad Hughesby. Today we are going to be talking about Michigan football.
Whoa.
Michigan was a big upcoming season. Ben didn't expect it. Ben, why didn't you expect it? We always talk about Michigan sports
We
here.
do talk about Michigan sports. I thought we might have jumped into the NBA draft. But Michigan football is I think it's in an okay place right now.
I think it's an absolutely awful state.
Okay, well, that's your opinion, but I don't think we're a preseason top 20 to 15 team, depending on where you look. And I think that's where we should be we lost Shea Patterson. We lost some of our best cornerbacks, Josh Metellus, Lavert Hill, but we return a lot of good O-line players, and our defensive line should still be good. So I'm thinking this is going to be a year where we're in the top half of the Big Ten, probably maybe pull an upset or two, but I don't think we're going to be able to beat Ohio State this year.
Let's see if the season happens. I've heard from multiple athletic directors they doubt if the season will even happen.
I don't think the season will happen.
I personally think the season will happen. I don't think fans will be there. But the NCAA and these universities need this funding. I mean, college football is so much of their revenue.
They already stopped.
It's just
March
it's crazy
Madness
how much
cost the NCAA billions of dollars.
Oh, the NCAA is probably in the worst state funding wise than they've ever been in their history, except for probably when they started. But of course, that goes for every single business. I mean, the COVID-19 crisis is just overwhelming every single industry, and it's affecting sports greater than most.
Yeah, with nothing. I mean, ESPN's reporting Korean baseball. So,
but what's it called? Bundesliga, the soccer team, they're going to start playing in May.
Really?
They said they're going to be playing games in May, getting team activities going up soon, so.
Well, there's some good teams in the Bundesliga. They got Bayern Munich.
There are. It's probably Premier League is first. Bundesliga is probably second or third. Probably third.
I'd say La Liga, which has Barcelona and Real Madrid, would take second because it has Messi.
But the Premier League is stacked head to toe. But I don't know enough about soccer to get into a debate about that.
I know more about soccer.
Let's go into NBA draft.
Yes.
The Bulls right now, people are projecting they'll be slated at 7th.
Every year.
That's kind of regardless of if the season finish out, the lottery. It's all in the air right now, but people are expecting they'll be 6th, 7th, or 8th. With that pick, a lot of people are looking at Isaac Okoro out of Auburn. I'm not a huge fan of his. I think he's a fine player. I think he's a great defensive player. I think we could use a defensive player.
We could use.
But I personally would not be upset if we trade down, acquire some assets for future years, and get a cat in the late lottery or 15th, 16th, 17th pick, etc. Somewhere in the middle of the first round, get maybe another first round pick for another year, maybe a 6th or 7th man in the trade, work some type of magic.
Who do you think?
I don't know what Everson likes to do. I mean, Gar Forman was usually content with staying where he was.
Every year.
That one year we had the 14th overall pick and we got Laurie and we did the whole Zach LaVine trade, which I thought was one of the, if not the greatest acquisition of his tenure, maybe the Derrick Rose selection, but I think my grandma could have made that pick. Derrick Rose was the obvious choice there in 2007 when the Chicago Bulls selected him. But I don't know Mark Eversley's tendencies. I don't think a lot of people do. He was the assistant general manager in Philadelphia. Being the number one guy is a lot different. It's a lot more pressure. You have a lot more time will probably be spent scouting these kids, and we'll see what happens. A lot of people are saying maybe LaMelo Ball. I personally think LaMelo Ball is a great player, but we don't need a point guard. We need a shooting guard.
LaMelo will be gone before the Bulls select. Unless we trade up or we get lucky in the lottery.
I think, the lottery is, I think, it adds a twist to it. It adds a twist to it.
It is fun. It's definitely more fun than when you can tank in the NFL. Even though you don't baseball, you can tank, but baseball the draft is a little more hit or miss.
Basketball, it's.
Who do you think the best player in
good.
the NBA draft is this year?
Anthony Edwards. I say that with 100% confidence. I love Anthony Edwards. I think he could be a future Hall of Famer. I think this draft is lacking from most years. I don't think it's a skill draft.
Good.
I think Anthony Edwards is a very, very solid player. I think he could definitely win chip. Definitely make at least five to 10 All-Star games.
I could see him struggling though.
I don't know.
Anthony Edwards.
I don't know about LaMelo Ball.
Anthony shoots.
I think Anthony Edwards doesn't get the attention he deserves because he went to Georgia.
No, I've watched games of his.
If he went to Kentucky or a UNC, a Duke, a Villanova, a Michigan State, he would have got so much more exposure, so much more attention because no one wants to see Georgia play. Let's be real here.
Well, he couldn't. They didn't do well. I mean, if he was really great, they would have done better. They went like 3-15 in the SEC or something. They were not a good team. And he shoots a lot.
But they had absolutely no one. Their best player the prior year, Nicholas Claxton, went to the Brooklyn Nets. They had another dude who played overseas this past year. So a lot of their starters, a lot of their upperclassmen left. It was kind of Anthony Edwards was everyone.
Yeah, and
which I think, but I also think that helped Anthony Edwards. I think he has a solid number one spot in the draft. I think in most years he probably would have been the third, fourth, maybe even fifth pick. Look at the DeAndre Ayton draft. Marvin Bagley was a solid number 2. DeAndre was number 1, and then Luka and Trey were 3 and 4. Anthony Edwards probably would have went 5th in that year. Look at last year. He probably would have went 4th behind RJ, Ja, and Zion. So this year is definitely not up to par as usual. But I think March Madness also can help or not help those guys. I know Anthony Edwards was not going to be in March Madness. But a lot of those, Isaac Okoro from Auburn, that could have been a big opportunity for him. Countless other players, Miles Powell, people are saying might be a first-round pick, Trey Jones. A lot of those upperclassmen can really make their moments there and definitely move up 10 picks. Look at Dante DiVincenzo from the Milwaukee Bucks. He would not have declared for the draft if he did not had the performance he had in that 2018 National Championship game against the corrupt Michigan University. Without that game, he would have been on the team another year or two, but because of that 37-point explosion, he was a first-round pick, 17th overall to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, that is true, but I don't think that was...
Who should go number 1, Ben?
In my opinion, LaMelo should go number 1. I think
LaMelo's a great player. I think he should go top 3 for sure.
I was down him, but the reasons I just don't like Anthony Edwards as much as you do, because when I watched him play, he's a shot-happy player. I know he wasn't playing on a great team, but he didn't really do a lot to get his teammates involved. He shoots. I mean, he's pretty inefficient.
He didn't have teammates. His teammates suck. His teammates are like 2 and 3 stars. Let's be real here. If you're going to Georgia, you're going to carry the team. There's a reason why I went there.
Yeah, that's why he went to Georgia, to carry a team, but he didn't end up carrying them to many victories. And he shot.
Also, that is a concern. He went to a bummy high school in Atlanta that he carried. He won everything. I need to see, as a scout or as a general manager on an NBA organization, I would like to see him play on winning teams. In high school, you see all these guys going to Oak Hill, IMG, La Lumiere, Prolific Prep, all these teams that are stacked with talent, and if they can beat out those other cats, I think they're just winners. I don't know. But then some people don't have the money to go to those teams. Some people don't have the talent. Some people are late bloomers. It's all everyone's situation is different. So you can't blame them for not going to the university that fit them best, which in this case was Georgia University. University of Georgia, excuse me, but everyone's different. I don't think there's ever really been an absolutely perfect prospect. Look at Zion Williamson. Look at the best player of all time, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was not the first overall pick. Hakeem Olajuwon was. Sam Bowie was the number 2 pick, and the number 3 was Michael Jordan. As Michael Jordan turned out to be the best NBA player of all time. All I have to say.
I mean, he did. He was a pretty good prospect. Sam Bowie should not have done before him. But I could argue.
Looking back on it, but when you look at that time, Sam Bowie is a 7'2" center from the University of Kentucky that dominated everyone in his side. Hakeem was the obvious choice. I think Hakeem's one of the greatest centers of all time. That was not a bust by any
Not
means.
even
That
close to a bust.
That was a good pick. But then you look at the Portland Trailblazers, who, let's say they pick Michael Jordan to be the successor from Clyde Drexler. Things might have turned out differently, but they didn't pick Michael Jordan because they had Clyde Drexler, who they knew would be their shooting guard for another 5 to 10 years. And it's all about position. It's all about need.
Yeah, hindsight's 20/20, obviously. But Sam Bowie, I mean, it's just sad. He really didn't turn out to be very much, especially sandwiched in between two of the best players. I guess Hakeem is definitely a top 25 player of all time. So.
Oh, no doubt. Yes, he's a fabulous player. He helped that Houston team to so many great runs.
Two championships.
It's Houston University and Houston Rockets. He went to Houston University back when Houston University was very
stacked.
good.
They had Clyde Drexler and Hakeem.
That was a crazy team. That was not many people talk about that, but they had those runs, and then following that was Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas, and then after that, it kind of went into the Duke era in the early 90s.
Duke, North
UNC
Carolina.
was always there.
Yeah,
so
Michigan,
many. Well, they paid those guys off. I don't know if they did it well, but that was honestly maybe the first college basketball dynasty other than UCLA. UCLA had it for so many years, but for another team to overtake UCLA in the early 90s was weird. Because UCLA just ran over the 60s and 70s with Lou Alcindor, so many great players, John Wooden, Bill Walton, so many great players came out of there. So it was cool to see that.
Well, UCLA has had a rough go of it. They made the Sweet 16 2 years ago, but really, compared to their earlier success, they've struggled in the 2000s and 2010s.
They have. They produce so many great players, though. I mean, Russell Westbrook came out of there recently. A bunch of other great NBA players.
Lonzo. I mean,
Lonzo was up there for most for what's it called?
Wooden Award?
No, for the what's it called? Like coming back from a bad year.
Most improved.
Most improved. How did I forget that? I'm sorry. I forgot on air too. Most improved player. I mean, I thought he was up there for it. Lonzo was definitely up there. He had a great year. Him and Zion have such a bond. I think him and Zion can do great things. But my big thing on both of them, Brandon Ingram, the Pelicans are a dangerous team, but injuries. Lonzo's had a bunch of injuries. Zion, we already know about his injuries.
I don't think he'll.
I don't know. It's I don't know. It's very risky for sure. But then it pays off. I think they could win a championship or two.
I see the Pelicans as a team that in 5 years, depending on injuries, because Zion is a player that his career could go like one of two ways. Already he looks like he could be a future Hall of Famer, but he's injury prone, and with his body type, it's like he has to carry all that weight, and he's just so athletic. He could land on his leg wrong. I mean, there's so many things that could happen.
If I was an NBA GM with the number 1 overall pick, I would have traded down to 2 and selected not RJ Barrett. Excuse me. Ja Morant. I wasn't a big fan of RJ Barrett coming out of college at Duke. I was a huge fan of Ja Morant, though. I remember Ja Morant carrying that Murray State Rambler team
over Marquette
to a 40-point defeat over Marcus Howard and Marquette's stacked team with that Hauser twins. Marquette had a pretty solid team that year. They were a 5 seed, and Murray State ran over them in the round of 64.
Murray State was definitely underseeded. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
They were.
All the mid-majors get underseeded year after year.
And you see it. They always pull out at least 1 or 2 upsets.
Loyola, 2018, making the Final Four. Butler, VCU. You see time and time again teams that get seeded 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th that play in less important conferences, and they kind of just make.
I don't know if I'd call that important because the Big East over the past 3 years has been the best conference
Butler
single
didn't.
conference.
Butler didn't used to play in the Big East. Butler was in the Horizon League.
Butler used to be in the Horizon League. Yes, they did, and the Big East
year
picked them
with
up.
Brad Stevens and Gordon Hayward and they also had a Shelvin Mack who was an NBA player for a bit.
They did.
So
Probably Kamar Baldwin will flirt with a couple NBA teams in the coming years. He was their former point guard. They have a decent team. Gordon Carter, a former Duke player, transferred there a few years ago. He's building out a solid career there at Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana. But they're a solid team. They're definitely a solid team in the Big East. They had a good year this year, ranked inside the top 10 for a few weeks, and
early in the year.
What they can do.
They were falling apart at the end of the year, though. They were completely falling apart.
But you can't doubt the talent. They have a second-year head coach. I think Butler University can go back to what they did in 2010 and 2011 with Brad Stevens and Gordon Hayward in the coming years.
I mean, they do play in a much better conference. The Big East did a great job when everyone left. They retooled. They got Creighton. They got Butler. They got Xavier.
Connecticut's coming in next year. Yes,
UConn's coming back.
UConn is coming back, and UConn also just landed a big 4-star recruit yesterday, who reclassified to class of 2020. So they have another big guy coming in next year. I think UConn will be better. They have Kevin Bucknight running the point, but for my predictions for college basketball coming in next year, not to say it's Villanova and everyone else. I think it really depends if Saddiq Bey stays or leaves. I think if Saddiq Bey stays, if I were a bettor, I'd put $50,000 that Villanova would win. $50,000 if Saddiq Bey stays. If he doesn't stay, I'd still have them winning it all. I have full trust in Villanova. I think we probably had the most depth we've ever had. This team doesn't have the skill, the NBA skill that 2018 team had with Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Omari Spellman, Eric Paschal, all these solid NBA players, but for college and for what the landscape of college basketball looks right now and how Villanova plays basketball, our team will be phenomenal next year. We have so many great players, a bunch of good sophomores, juniors, and seniors. No freshmen coming in. This might be one of the only teams in all of college basketball that have 0 incoming freshmen.
Well, that's concerning for the future.
But then you look forward to 2021. We already have 1 4-star committed and look to sign at least 1, maybe 2 more. So we have I expect to have at least 2 or 3 4-stars coming in for 2021. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll have a down year or 2, but Jay Wright always does a good job getting in some transfers. I think we'll be fine. But yes, I think we'll win it next year. I think Baylor's also strong. They lost a guy or 2 to the NBA, though. Creighton is kind of the only team that hasn't lost anyone. And Creighton came off a red-hot streak at the end of last year.
What happened. Marcus Zegarowski.
Alex O'Connell's transferring in, too. They lost their backup point guard transferred to University of Kentucky, actually. But backup point guard, they got Alex O'Connell. I'd rather have him anyways. So I also think Gonzaga looks good. But Philippe Pestruve and 2 of their other leading scorers all declared for the draft. So I think Gonzaga got the wrong end of the stick, lost a couple of guys that could have stayed, maybe would have won a national championship.
I don't think Gonzaga was
been so close so many times.
I don't think Gonzaga was the best team this year.
But I don't think they were either, but I think they're definitely up there. I think going into this next year, though, if I had my predictions, would be Villanova versus Creighton, a Big East showdown with Baylor right there at number 3. I think Villanova takes it close. I think the Big East will be probably the most competitive it's ever been. Miles Powell left. Seton Hall isn't as good. But I think Creighton, this is probably the best team they ever had. And they had Justin Patton a few years ago, Doug McDermott. They've had a couple of good NBA players come out of Creighton. But I think this is Creighton's best team they've ever had.
Well, yeah, but there's not that much depth. Marquette is seriously lacking without Marcus Howard. And Seton Hall lost Miles Powell, so that's 2 of the Big East's best players of all time, like, if you want to go to that.
I don't know about that. But
I mean,
they're definitely good. Carmelo Anthony, when Syracuse was in the Big East, I'd put Carmelo Anthony. Shabazz Napier, or were they in the Conference USA then?
No, they were still in the Big East. I mean, yeah, but 4 year. I mean, Marcus Howard.
But if you're talking about college skill, like not NBA skill, NBA skill, I'd probably take Kyle Lowry, Paul Arizin,
Patrick Ewing,
but probably Patrick Ewing, yeah. But there are, and so many other greats from the 20th century. But going into this year, I have Villanova taking it all. Ben, what would you like to talk about next?
Well, we didn't talk that much about the NBA draft other than saying who we thought was the best player. But who do you think if the draft, who do you think the rookie of the year would be? Would you still go with Anthony Edwards?
It all depends on what team they go to. It really does. I can't say. Because James Wiseman could be the number 1 overall pick if the Warriors get the first pick. And I don't see James Wiseman on that stacked Warriors team being the rookie of the year. If the Warriors
get the first pick, then the player they select will not be the rookie of the year because he'll have to deal with Curry, Thompson, and Green.
And that's known. And if I'm an NBA GM and the Warriors go number 1, I'm desperately trying to trade to that number 3 spot. Because let's say the Warriors fall outside the top 10, James Wiseman isn't going until 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't think James Wiseman will be a top 3 or 4 pick. I think it'll be LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, maybe Isaac Okoro will slide in there. And there's so many. It's all these guys are so close. It's honestly what teams need. And when you look at the Bulls need a small forward. We have our power forward for the future in Laurie. We have our center in Wentel.
I don't know.
Point guard. Our point guard and Kobe White and our center. I mean, our shooting guard.
I'm not sold on Wendell Carter or Lauri Markkanen as our players for the future.
They hate the coach. Get Jim Boylen out of Chicago immediately. If Mark Eversley fires Jim Boylen, I will already consider.
It doesn't make sense why he hasn't been fired already.
Success. We know he can't do stuff. Look at this. He is a decent talent. He is playoff level talent. And he gets us to a consistent 11th seed, 10th seed. That's not going to win you championships in the NBA. And you've had a year and a half. And he's been the assistant for so long. He knows these guys, but these guys don't like him, clearly. Lauri's talked to reporters about it.
They all have. They clearly don't like him, but I don't know if the Bulls have playoff level talent. Maybe 8 seed, 7 seed talent, but nothing higher than that.
I think if we can trade or draft a solid small forward, I think we'd be set. Maybe go after KD in free agency. We have the cap space.
Isaac Okoro, someone like maybe RJ Hampton. I mean, what about Obi Toppin? I guess he's more of a power forward, 6'8", but proven winner, really athletic.
I think he's a great guy too. I think he'd go with our system very well in Chicago. I wouldn't mind an Obi Toppin pick. I wouldn't mind an Obi Toppin pick. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Saddiq Bey is going to the draft. In the mock draft I'm looking at right now, he's 15th to Orlando. So.
But that money from 14 to 15 is such a big difference. If you're not a lottery pick, you might as well go back to college because promise you, if Saddiq Bey goes back to college, Villanova will win the national championship and he will be a lottery pick. Look at Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges went back to college. He was probably going to be a late first rounder, early second rounder. Went back to college, was the 10th overall pick.
But it can go the other way too. You go back to college, you tear an ACL. You're going from first round to out of the draft.
I don't know about out of the draft. I'd say it depends at the specific talent level. I think Saddiq would still be at least an early first rounder, maybe even late first rounder, early second rounder.
If you look at Charles Matthews from Michigan 2 years ago, he was a late first round pick. He went back to college. He didn't have a great year, and then he tore his ACL the week before the draft and didn't get drafted. Now he's sitting, I don't even know where he is. I think he's in Europe somewhere, but I mean, that's kind of what can happen. If you come back and if he just doesn't have a great year or if he gets injured, he's sitting in a good place right now. I don't know why he wouldn't go.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. I'm very excited for the NBA draft, even though it just recently got postponed. But I think that's going to do it, Ben. Thank you for talking some NBA draft coverage with me. A little bit of college football as well. NBA legacies. We'll definitely be back soon. possibly Friday. We're debating doing a Wednesday, Friday weekly shows.
We're gonna get Tim
2 shows a
Beatson in
week.
here.
We might get Tim Beatson in here. We'll let you guys know. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we'll see you later.
See ya.